What's the worst announcement your school ever made? I was sitting in fourth period chemistry when the announcement came over the PA system. Our principal's voice, but it sounded wrong, shaky. Attention students and faculty. Any student who consumed food from the main cafeteria today needs to report to the gymnasium immediately. Bring nothing except your student ID. This is not optional. The room went dead silent. 24 kids staring at each other, trying to figure out what was going on. My friend Derek grabbed my arm. Dude, what's happening? I didn't answer because I couldn't. My throat felt like it was closing up, and not from fear, from something else, something physical. As we walked toward the gym, I noticed other kids in the hallways being escorted by adults in protective gear. Some looked fine. Others looked like I felt pale, sweating, holding their stomachs. The gymnasium had been transformed into something that looked like a field hospital. Tables everywhere, people in medical uniforms, and at least 6 ambulances parked outside the windows. They separated us into groups based on what we'd eaten. Chicken sandwich kids in one section, pizza in another, salad bar in a third. I ended up with about 40 other students, all of us looking increasingly sick. A doctor approached our group. "I'm Dr. Williams from County General. We need to ask you some questions about what you ate and how you're feeling." That's when someone in our group, Melissa from my English class, threw up violently, all over the gym floor. Within minutes, 6 more kids were vomiting. The smell was horrible, but what made it worse was the way the medical staff reacted. They didn't look surprised. They looked like they'd been expecting it. "Food poisoning?" asked Brian, trying to sound tough, but failing. Dr. Williams shook his head. "We're not sure yet. That's why you're here." They started taking blood samples. Not the little finger prick thing, actual vials of blood. When they got to me, the nurse looked at my arm and frowned. "How long have you had this rash?" she asked. I looked down. Red spots were spreading up my forearm. Spots that definitely hadn't been there during lunch. "Since now?" I said weakly. That's when they moved me to the priority section, along with 8 other kids who'd developed the same rash. We were the chicken sandwich group, and we were getting sicker by the minute. The next few hours were a blur. More blood tests, IV fluids, phone calls to our parents who weren't allowed into the building yet. And through it all, more kids from the cafeteria kept arriving, with some looking worse than others. Around 6 p.m., they finally told us what had happened. "The chicken served at lunch today was contaminated with salmonella," Dr. Williams announced to our section. "But not regular salmonella, a strain that's resistant to most antibiotics." My mom, who'd finally been allowed in, grabbed my hand. "What does that mean?" "It means we need to keep these students under observation. The regular treatment might not work." That night, they transferred 23 of us to the hospital. I spent 4 days on IV antibiotics. Watching the local news report on the outbreak in my school, nobody seemed to know exactly how the contaminated chicken had made it into our cafeteria. The worst part wasn't being sick. It was watching my friends like Emma, who'd eaten 2 chicken sandwiches because she was super hungry that day. She ended up in the ICU. Her kidneys started shutting down on day 3. When I finally got discharged, they gave me a thick packet of papers about post-infection monitoring and follow-up appointments. Apparently, this strain of salmonella could cause long-term problems. School reopened a week later, but the cafeteria stayed closed for 3 weeks. They brought in health inspectors, replaced all the kitchen equipment, and hired an entirely new food service staff. But 18 kids never came back to school. Some transferred, too traumatized by the whole experience. Others, like Emma, were too sick and just didn't make it.